The 116th United States Open did not need a louder microphone. It needed a steadier pencil. From the 16th through the 19th of June in 2016, the USGA hung its National Open on the calendar at Oakmont Country Club in Pennsylvania. The championship hub pages and the historical Open listings tell viewers what the broadcast often skips. This week sat inside the USGA's own sequence of National Opens, anchored to a venue the governing body treats as institutional memory. The tee sheet and the posted notices across practice rounds and tournament rounds are not backstage trivia. They are the frame that makes every later argument legible. Long before anyone argued about a single stroke on Sunday, the event already lived inside official containers. Pairing discipline and starting times held the week together. Each round fed a leaderboard the public would treat as truth until something forced a revision. Oakmont sits in that open lineage the way a clubhouse posting board sits in a member's sightline. It is not decorative, but constitutional. A major is still played on grass, but it is governed on paper. Final cards, attested language, and committee rulings travel through the same door the tee sheet opened on Monday morning. That written container is where this story begins. It does not start with a swing in isolation. It starts with the record that decides which names survive when the week is finalized. The Open's identity on the USGA calendar is not a marketing slogan. It is a competition class with a scoring lineage. Championship pages, historical listings, and venue identifiers must later absorb whatever the rules committee changes after the cameras move on. By Sunday, the field had compressed into something scorekeepers recognize immediately. Galleries feel it as breath on the neck. Dustin Johnson walked among the names the printed tables kept lifting toward the top. Shane Lowry, too, held a place in the story the leaderboards told again and again. Weather and light refused to cooperate with a tidy narrative arc. The 2016 US Open field reads cleanly on cross-checked tables at the PGA Tour Hub. Round-by-round summaries that align with Wikipedia's tournament accounting show the same pattern. Volatility and interruption turned scoring updates into a drumbeat rather than a single clean line. A United States Open leaderboard is a machine-readable artifact before it is a feeling. Row after row lists player, round, and total. Each refresh offers another version of the same competitive fact. Fans treat that public sheet as verified truth. The marker's private card and the committee's working notes have not yet agreed on every hole. The slip trusted in the moment was the public board. It updates faster than any single pencil can move. The week had already trained everyone to read Oakmont in single strokes on a severe par 70. The margin on the board looked thin because the margin on the card always is. Each entry mattered because the tournament's competitive shape, entering the final round, still lived where it always lives first. That place is the page everyone could see. When play is interrupted and restarted, the leaderboard artifact refreshes so often that fans experience the week as a series of slips rather than one uninterrupted card. The research trail keeps returning to that machine-readable spine. It is the first place stakes become visible in numbers. When weather suspends play, the drama on television is rain, wind, and waiting faces. The drama in the tournament office is paper. Restart order and groupings follow USGA pairing discipline. They fix who walks, when, and beside whom on the pairing sheet before cameras narrate the chaos as heroics. Championship Sunday at Oakmont stretched across suspension and resumption blocks. Wire style and newspaper reporting preserved that frame for the record. NBC Sports family coverage echoed the marathon round. Those accounts sit usefully beside Wikipedia's round-by-round prose. That prose compresses hours into paragraphs but keeps the same structural truth. The who plays when question is answered on a logistics record before it is answered on a screen. Without that pairing slip, later is just a word. With it, the committee knows exactly which group carries which working score into the next chapter of the round. The pairing sheet is the hidden spine of what the broadcast sells as uncertainty. Officials verify who is in which group. Markers keep gross numbers that must later reconcile with any ruling that changes a whole score. The posting board the public watches is downstream from all of it. Oakmont 2016 became a lesson in how often the audience experiences time forward. The official record experiences time in layers: restart, resume, revise. Each layer is another line on the week's ledger. National reporting from the Golf Channel and NBC Sports family of outlets preserved the marathon round frame. Readers needed a time-stamped sense of how Sunday stretched. Paired with encyclopedic round summaries, that frame keeps the pairing sheet's job visible. The broadcast often shows only weather. On the fifth green during the final round, the object on the grass became evidence. Johnson's ball moved after he had addressed it in the sense the rules edition then in force cared about. The stroke and distance world narrowed to Oakmont's slick grain. So did the subtle risk that a ball at rest can still travel on a surface famous for speed and contour. The New York Times, the Washington Post, and the USGA's own post-round language converged on the same hole number and the same Sunday window. This was not a rumor attached to the wrong hole. The physical mark on the ground turned into a rules object the moment movement was observed. It was logged for committee review. Oakmont's identity in championship golf belongs in club history pages and architectural memory. It belongs in player memory just as surely. A small movement on that kind of green carries competitive weight out of proportion to how little ink it takes on a working card. Johnson's group worked within the sight lines of rules officials as the incident was evaluated. Golf Digest and ESPN's event recaps described the same procedural posture. Video review and on-course observation feed the same committee trail. The marker's booklet was already recording gross numbers hole by hole. That is the first private slip that must one day match whatever the committee posts. That is the documentary heart of major golf. The broadcast shows a putt. The record shows a ruling waiting in the margin. Video review, referenced across major newspapers as part of the committee's toolkit that afternoon, does not replace the marker's pencil. It feeds the same review path that ends, if the committee agrees, in a corrected hole score. That score must eventually stand on an attested card. Johnson's group worked with on-site rules staff as the incident was evaluated. Major championships insist the first draft of truth is witnessed, not only felt. Golf Digest's reporting tied that official presence to the same window ESPN treated as settled procedural fact. The Rules Committee could review. It could weigh video. It could later change the returned score for the hole in question even as play crept forward. The marker kept the working hole scores. That is the first private record before penalty strokes propagate to a public board. Contemporaneous reporting frequently placed senior USGA rules leadership in the on-course chain of decision. The cast of record for this archive stays anchored to named organizational statements on the USGA's own communications pages, not to invented dialogue. Then came the sequence reporters documented around the 12th tee and the adjacent fairway routing. Before the committee finalized its decision, USGA officials informed Johnson that he might be assessed a one-stroke penalty after review while the round continued. The New York Times and Golf Digest, read beside ESPN's account, do not offer one immortal Chiron line for this narration to steal. They offer something more durable. They offer an informational slip that traveled ahead of the attested number. For several holes, the player, the field, and the audience carried the same uncertainty forward. The story lived in May before it lived in posted. That mid-round notice is the workflow's core twist. A championship exists where the sheet everyone watches can lag the committee's unfinished business. The player must keep playing while the ruling still sits in review. From the marker's side of the rope, nothing about that May language is abstract. Every hole still needs a gross number. Every later revision has to be reconciled so the return score the player signs matches what the committee has reviewed and penalized or cleared. The USGA's Championship Week statement on the ruling at the fifth green stands in the file the way a posted notice stands on a wall. It is titled, dated, and attached to the organization's public record. The committee concluded Johnson's actions caused the ball to move. It assessed a one-stroke penalty under Rule 18-2, the text then applicable. That language is the cleanest digital analog to the paper ruling text the rules room consults before a penalty stroke appears on the board. A separate byline statement from John Bodenhamer, then managing director of championships for the USGA, layered interpretive language for fans and for the historical file. Leadership statements do that when controversy outruns the first draft of committee prose. Johnson's camp maintained he did not cause the movement. The committee's findings served a different record type. Both belong in the story without collapsing them into one voice. Outsiders summarized the old decision 18-2/0.5 framework with the shorthand "more likely than not." That framework is archived in the R&A's rules materials for the cycle then in force. It describes how video evidence interacted with a player's assertion. The decision book is what committee rooms consult before the public sees a stroke change posted. While play still wound toward the house, national outlets described viewer confusion. Television graphics struggled to keep pace with a penalty framed as pending rather than immediately finalized. The Los Angeles Times sat beside wire service leadies that treated the leaderboard as provisional during review. Across the Atlantic, The Guardian preserved peer-authored objections inside reputable copy. Elite players criticized the USGA's handling in real time. Ephemeral posts turned into citiable text on the record. That is another kind of public notice competing with committee language before the card ended the arithmetic argument. Modern Opens distribute scoring through USGA-controlled feeds and championship portals. Oakmont 2016 sits at a point in that lineage where broadcast numbers, web refreshes, and manual attestation could disagree for long enough. The week felt like two leaderboards at once. One emotional, one official. When the dust settled, PGA Tour reporting recorded what the attested championship line insists upon. Johnson won the 2016 United States Open for his first major title. Mainstream recap math placed him 3 strokes clear after the one-stroke penalty was incorporated into his return score for the hole in question. Lowry, Sergio Garcia, and Scott Piercy remained visible in the results tables as the high finisher cluster the printed leaderboard ties into place. Each position is a scoring committee product. Each tie string is a fact to reconcile against the USGA's final open scoring not invented for drama. Later rulebooks through USGA and R&A modernization materials moved many ball-at-rest situations toward clearer on-course resolution patterns. They reduced some classes of committee afterthought narratives that Oakmont exemplified under prior text. One championship's paperwork embarrassment became a line item in later codes. The stakes, the research file names are all readable as movements between record types, not only as swings. Early leverage sat in single strokes on the board. The committee then held leverage because it could alter a whole score after review. The gallery held leverage while everyone watched a provisional leaderboard and a penalty stayed undecided. Once the penalty locked and the chase target clarified, leverage returned to the course. The week that began on the USGA calendar ended on the posted card. Provisional numbers came first, then committee-adjusted numbers, then the official result. The championship must always reconcile what the broadcast felt with what the sheet recorded. The tee sheet does not shout. It simply waits until every stroke is reviewed, verified, and written down.
0% chance of rain. That might be the highlight of that graphic after all the rain we had here Wednesday night and most of the day.